And we welcome Mark Schipper, owner and editor, FifthDownCollegeFootball.com, friend of the program. Mark, welcome back. How are you?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Well, we're a little bothered, if we're being honest, by the whole situation with the Pac-12 conference.
Yes.
And I guess we have to call it the Pac-9 for now. We're too close to it, right? So outside looking in, how is this being viewed by the college football world?
Yeah, not well, I don't think. The Pac's running into an issue that's been building for them for a long time, which is their CEO group is not fully cognizant of what's happening in college football. They're not acting like they need to act to get in front of what's happening, and we're seeing a prestige league be picked apart really for the first time in college football history. It's unprecedented that a conference of the stature of the Pac-12 is being eaten up like this.
So when is it, what about this, I guess, are they underestimating? Like where's the CEO group missed the market? I feel like there are parts of the CEO group that understand where they're at and maybe others that aren't, but what do they miss the most?
I think they're understanding now, but it's taken some very hard slaps and wake-up calls to get it. I think they messed up about halfway into Larry Scott's tenure when they didn't get rid of him and go a new direction with the TV deal. When the Big 12 began to crack apart, Oklahoma and Texas left, that was the moment to make a move for the best of the rest of their teams. And they actually did, to their credit, attempt to do that. Apparently they were thwarted, led by USC, before USC either knew it was leaving or was still working on leaving. Well, we're not exactly sure on the timeline there. So in general, the Pac-12 is maybe this is to their credit. They're a collegiate group. They see this as college football, and they see colleges as, universities. So the idea that they'd play a to the death entertainment TV game is kind of not in their nature.
So the rumor mill that is still turning rapidly, and understandably so, says that Arizona's an eventuality to leave. Now, the Pac-8 at that point still has Utah, still has Oregon, still has Washington. The remaining football powers are intact, and all of this, we're told, is based on football, right? I mean, Arizona as a football program is getting better, but they haven't done anything in that sport. Colorado hasn't done anything for a long time, so it's hard to say that these are football decisions. I think these are market and availability decisions. But if the Big 12 stops there and this conference adds like San Diego State, SMU, something like that, are we all good? You still got a powerful enough conference to justify college football playoff inclusion for the champion and all that?
Yeah, great question. I think we're going to find out. Arizona going to the Big 12 is clearly not a football move per se. Arizona's been in the Pac 10, 12, 45 years. They've shared one conference title. They've never played in the Rose Bowl. They're known for their basketball. Brett Yormark over at the Big 12 has said he foresees a basketball money-making opportunity, separate contract for basketball and football, and he's kind of moving and shaking like that. Brett Yormark is moving and shaking. I think like the Pac-12 wanted to see George Kliavkoff move and shake, but they've slow played their hand, and it appears to be hurting them now. So in terms of who they're adding, San Diego State, SMU, Tulane, maybe Colorado State. Within the conference itself, what's remaining and what the odds of this are, I have no idea. But where are Stanford and the University of California in all this? Stanford can compete at whatever level it wants to compete at. Cal Berkeley can certainly compete at a higher level than it is now. When the Pac formed originally, the 1959 Pac version, the modern one we know today, Cal and Stanford were at the fore of that reorganization effort. They faded from the scene. If the Pac can get those two powerhouses caring about college football again, the conference is totally viable, but are they going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the issue, right, is the TV deal. Arizona wants to stay, Colorado wanted to stay, but there's no TV deal. So if you're Arizona and you hear this week, either there's no deal or there's a reported deal that's all digital but not a lot of money, are you taking the stability in the Big 12, or are you holding out hope that something gets better, by the end of the year with the Pac-12?
If I'm Arizona, I'm holding tight with the Pac. They've got fans who want to go to the Big 12, and I think they're dreaming of the power of that basketball conference and putting their hoops brand in there. And that's understandable, particularly from a fan standpoint, because we're talking about entertainment and television. What games do you want to watch on TV? You want to watch Arizona play big games. So, but from a football point of view, I still think they should hold tight. The Pac can bring in some schools, and it's got a strong core. And these schools said from the beginning, we're waiting for a TV deal. Now, the question here for me, the thing that I'm trying to figure out is, why did the Pac get locked in on this death grip of sign a deal, then expand? We don't usually see it go that way, so I'm not sure why they're so locked in on that. So Colorado getting antsy, Arizona getting antsy. It's kind of easy to understand. People want to know where they're at with the deal.
Mark Schipper is our guest here on Pac-12 today. All right, because we're not going to have any real answers on what's happening with college football realignment, what's happening with the remaining teams in the Pac-12, a television rights deal, whatever, we don't get to solve that problem today. Let's talk about actual football. Teams are in camp around the country. The college football season is here. It is back. Your expectations for the power structure in a Pac-12 year that is supposed to be, with some irony, like the most competitive year, the best year of Pac-12 football since it became the Pac-12.
Yeah, isn't that just the worst irony of it? It's so Pac of them to do it this way. It may be, in terms of week-to-week play, the most fun it's ever been. You look at the quarterback situation across the league. They have great quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Penix, Bo Nix, but Dante Moore could be interesting at UCLA. Oregon State suddenly is back in the fray with an interesting team. So top of the league, USC is going to be the team to beat, which, going back to our earlier conversation, had USC maintained that pole position with everybody trying to knock off the Trojans, the Pac likely isn't in the spot they're in today. They got the NCAA sanctions. They fell off. They got disorganized, blah, blah, blah. That's history. So USC, I think Utah is going to be a top challenger. Oregon is going to be a top challenger. UCLA and Oregon State are both going to be interesting, seeing how that breaks. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the top of the league. And then we got the Washington too. Sorry, Washington is right at the mix at the top as well. And then we got Kenny Dillingham down at Arizona State, which I don't expect a big winner out of ASU, but ASU to me is a sleeping power of a program. They can get athletes. They're willing to support the program from within the school. And I'm interested to see how Dillingham does in his first season in Tempe.
What makes you hopeful that USC's defense is better this year, right? I mean, Alex Grinch now has a track record of and look, it's not like they didn't have players at Oklahoma. They had good players there as well.
Right.
What makes you think USC's defense will be better this year? Because, if their defense isn't much improved with a Washington, Oregon on their schedule, they're not going to win the Pac-12.
Right, and we saw it last year. You go to a Cotton Bowl against Tulane, and USC barely got in Tulane's way. So they're going to have to be better than that in the Pac-12 with the offenses in that league. What gives me hope? That's an interesting question, because what have they changed? I don't know that much has changed. We're told there's an added urgency and intensity, and that practice film has been reviewed by Alex Grinch, and that they're going to change the way they practice a little bit. But for me, it's a wait and see with USC. We're just going to find out on the field if it's better or not. The Grinch narrative has gone on forever, and it's basically been the same results.
So we all agree, all three of us in this discussion here, that it's going to be a really intense Pac-12 football season. Does news come out, if news comes out in the next 2 or 3 weeks, that like, hey, in 2024, the Pac-12 is going to look really different. It's going to be seriously diminished, going to be disbanded altogether. Do people pay more attention to Pac-12 football this year because of it? Or are they just like, that conference is done. I don't care that they have 6 ranked teams.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a mix. It's going to depend on what part of the country you're from. Some parts of the country just don't watch the Pac-12 or don't watch it much. It's a sad thing. I'm out there beating the drum for the Pac-12 always. I know what a special league it is and how much fun it is. But some people just think the Pac-12 is not worth watching, or they're in a time zone where it's difficult for them to watch. But I will say this regarding your question. I think a lot of eyes are on the Pac-12 right now, whether it's freak show nature, whether it's going to be a football, it's going to be a great football season reasoning. I think it's going to be a mix of all of them, but I do think the Pac-12 is going to have a lot of eyeballs, particularly this season.
Yeah, it feels ironic because we're dealing with the TV deal and teams leaving, but it's our best year as a conference. I feel like, we're not going to have a playoff team. We're going to beat each other up, which is totally fine. But do you think that people will hold that against the Pac-12, that there's no playoff team, even though we might have, again, 4 or 5 teams with 10 wins?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they always do. And that's what I talk about, this playoff, this 4-team invitational, not a true playoff. It's BCS +2. The problem with it being, when you make your sport a one-champion sport, that's what people care about. People blame the media for following the playoff too much. College football did that to itself. Before the BCS, before the playoff, when it was just bowl season, everybody watched the bowls with all the anticipation, with all the interest, with the huge audiences. And then we took a vote on January 2nd and named a champion. The bowls were the thing. Once you turn it into – now the BCS was kind of a good compromise because you had the bowls and the championship. But the problem with the BCS is there was a market cap on the BCS. They made as much money as they could, and then they needed to make more, so they expanded it, and they're going to expand it again. So it'll be held against the Pac-12, wrongly so, and I guess what we have to hope for is that one of these teams finally breaks through and gets an invite.
The best player in the country last year was Caleb Williams. He's back. How real are his chances for repeating as a Heisman Trophy winner?
In terms of how good he is, I mean, they're great, and he plays for USC. And so USC has most of their Heisman winners have been phenomenal players, but USC on the West Coast gets the most attention by far. So you're a great quarterback. You play for USC. You do spectacular things on the field. Everyone's going to see it. It's a flashy prestige program. He's got a great chance, but he's going to have to really be superb to do it because, giving it out twice, it's only happened once with Archie Griffith. And, I don't know if people look back and say he definitely needed it both years. So he'll have to be great, but he's going to have a shot.
I'm curious to see kind of how that all goes down with Williams. Is there a surprise team you have out west? Like I think the Bruins, if Dante Moore plays well, maybe Arizona State has their transfers kind of all come together. Jed Fish has Arizona rolling in year 3. Is there a surprise team for you?
Well, is Oregon State a surprise team? I know they're getting some publicity, but to me, anytime Oregon State is actually good, it's kind of a surprise. It just doesn't happen that often historically. So I like Oregon State to – it would be kind of a bummer if Oregon State ruined the Pac-12's playoff chance with a big win somewhere, but I think the Beavs out there could be pretty good.
All right. The person in this conference, the players in this conference, the team in this conference that you personally are most intrigued by?
Well, coaching wise, I do want to see what Kenny Dillingham does. He's such a young coach, first experience running a full program. I talked about Cal and Stanford earlier. Arizona State is another one of those programs that should be the strength of the Pac-12. They just have the right ingredients to be good if they can get organized. I tell people all the time, Arizona State has 3 different times been within either a game or a vote of a national championship. They've had undefeated seasons. They've won Rose Bowls. They've had good teams. They just haven't put it together consistently. So Dillingham, ASU. And then actually, with UCLA, Chip Kelly needs to sustain. He's built slowly. They've gotten better, but they have not been top tier in the league, and they have not quite been nationally relevant yet. So can Chip Kelly sustain the success, bring in a 5-star quarterback, keep that offense humming, and improve the defense? I would say UCLA has done more than USC to potentially improve their defense, though. If they have the players to do it, we're going to find out. So I kind of like ASU, and then let's see if UCLA can get itself back in the national conversation, which is where it used to be.
Colorado has a really tough opening stretch, first 5 games. Do you see them going any better than, let's say, 2-3?
Yeah, Colorado's a fascinating story. No one has ever done a better job before coaching a game than Dion, getting attention and hype back into what used to be a pretty good college football program, or was for a while. I think 2-3 is probably about right. I don't think Colorado's going to be good again quickly. They've been down for way too long. The roster's been shredded. There hasn't been that much time to put it back together. So I think look for Colorado to continue struggling this year, and sort of anything that's progress from where it bottomed out at should make the Buffs fans happy. At least there's excitement back in Boulder.
On the national perspective, I mean, everyone's excited, right? Everyone's 0-0 right now. Everyone's like, we can make a run at the college football playoff. Georgia has like the easiest schedule in the country, and they're Georgia. I know they're replacing a lot, but are the Bulldogs on their way to an unprecedented third straight championship?
Well, if anyone's ever had the right path to do it, it's Georgia in 2023. Were they, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, was Oklahoma on the schedule and that game got scratched because of the conference realignment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So they would have had to play Oklahoma, which would have made the schedule a hell of a lot more respectable than it is. So they replaced it with a much easier opponent. Yeah, Georgia, you got the usual slings and arrows of the SEC to get through, but they've been doing that just fine lately. So I think we're going to see as close as we've been in a long time at a three-peat.
Well, we'll get to watch it all very soon. Thankfully, the wait gets shorter and shorter for actual football to talk about, discuss, and watch instead of this crazy behind-the-scenes business stuff. Mark, keep up the good work. We appreciate your time.
Hey, guys, appreciate you. Great to talk as always.
Fifth down college football. Mark Schipper